On today's video, we're going to give you a tour of one of the deer blinds out here at the camp. Hey there, outdoor YouTubers. Dave Knetter with my son Nick Knetter from Knetter's Practical Outdoors, and we're out here at the camp tonight. Michigan's firearm deer season is kind of starting to wind down, and we're gonna go. Yeah, that's not gonna smell like anything. Don't bother. It's scent eliminator. And anyways, we're gonna go out tomorrow, and we're gonna button up a few of the deer blinds. Not all of them. We are still hunting, but we're gonna button up a few of them, you know, for the off season. And I thought maybe I'd give you a tour of one of the ones that we're gonna button up. So this is the way out to one of the blinds. It's in a pretty good swamp. A lot of water. Pretty much the whole path is just water. The only thing solid is if you're standing on some of the root systems. Other than that, it's just a lot of muck and water. Got a little bit of snow. It's hardening up a little bit. But it's not too bad of a spot back here. So I did make the effort to get a nice permanent deer blind back here. And I'll show you guys that. And I think you can see from the path back here, it wasn't an easy task to get that deer blind back here. Took it back here disassembled in pieces. And I'll give you a little tour of it when we get back to the blind. So what we got with this blind is each wall is two sections. You can see like this was one section and this was another section. And once we got them out here, they were all screwed together. The roof is different separate 1x boards. So essentially you could carry out like about half the roof just under each arm. And the roofing is this rubber roofing, and what that allowed us to do was just to take one sheet, spread it out over the roof when everything was assembled, and then just use these roofing nails to attach it on the sides. So really there's no fasteners coming down on top, which no fasteners on top mean no holes on top. Then the other thing this rubber roofing does is when you leave it overhang like this, it actually acts as a drip edge. Then that eliminates the need for bringing out any kind of aluminum drip edge. If you were to use rolled roofing or shingles, you could never bend it over like that and have it work for very long. You would have to bring out some sort of aluminum drip edge. So rubber roofing really works well for that. Here's the inside of the blind. Got two plastic outdoor lawn type chairs. They're light, cheap of course, so they're light enough to bring out here. Got a little cushion on the one, Mr. Heater in the corner, a little shelf, and I'll show you a few other things here. Got the window. Window opens and closes. See down the lane. Of course, the closed window keeps the heat in. Originally, this, and this were all open, and I kind of boxed it in and just gave myself the one window. I can't see around into as many areas with those windows covered up, but the trade-off is a warmer blind, my scent doesn't get blown around as much, and it keeps it kind of nice and dark inside the blind, so the deer can't see movement inside the blind as easy. One thing that's a little interesting, I have this screen window up here, and I can kind of open and close it just with this rubber flap. But it does a couple things for me. One, I can look out and I can see down my main lane, see if there's any deer out there while I'm standing up. And that's actually a pretty nice thing if you spend a lot of time inside the blind to to be able to stand up and stretch a little bit. And the other thing it does, especially since I've closed it in and I have this closable window, this screen here always acts as a vent. Helps keep the moisture out of the blind. Because if you got a blind that's locked up pretty tight, you'll get moisture that stays inside, and then you can get mold and mildew. And of course you don't want any of that. It probably isn't necessarily going to happen during deer season, but over the course of the summer, the off season, you might get some mold building up in here if you don't have some air that can get in. And of course we got Mr. Heater here. Works really good. And I'll tell you one thing about this Mr. Heater Little Buddy heater is it is very quiet, and that is not the case with necessarily any kind of propane heater you can get. Some actually sound like a blowtorch. So I really do like these Little Buddy Mr. Heaters. Small, don't take up much space in the blind, throw off plenty of heat for an enclosed blind like this, and again, like I say, they are very quiet, which of course is very important. I did fabricate up my own base just to give it that extra stability rather than the plastic base that came with it. So I do like doing that. That helps out quite a bit. And one thing I did do when I enclosed the blind and I started using the heater, I did insulate the roof. And what that does for me is, of course, it helps keep some heat in, but the other thing it does is you don't want the roof getting real hot, and then the snow on top will start dripping. And sometimes that's irrelevant, but sometimes it makes kind of a big difference if the woods is all still and quiet and all of a sudden a deer comes along and your blind is just dripping off the sides and kind of making noise. It kind of stands out if nothing else in the woods is dripping. So little insulation on the roof keeps the snow from melting and dripping off. And a couple other things about the blind. This carpeting in the corner is actually where I rest the rifle, so I'm not bumping it into wood. It's nice and quiet when I lift the rifle off of there. And yeah, we got this juice container. I think you guys can figure out what this is about. Okay, it's not apple juice, so that's a good thing to keep in your blind. And I got this container here. I keep a few snacks, a few extra propane tanks in there, that sort of thing. And I'll show you guys another thing here in this blind. It's kind of neat. And another thing, I think you can figure out what this is about. And what I do here is you attach this this swimming noodle. I got a slit down this swimming noodle all the way down, and it wraps around the top lid of that bucket. And like I say, if you use your imagination, I think you can figure out what's going on there. And then what I do, if I do use this, you just tie up the bag nice and tight, set it outside the blind, and just bring it back to the camp and dispose of it properly when you're back at the camp. But I'll tell you what, it sure beats hanging on to some small tree or trying to find just the right fallen tree to hang your business end out over. So that works out real well. And this whole blind was constructed with 1-bys for the studs. All this is true 1-by lumber that I had cut on my property, and I just kind of put them on the table saw and made them into studs, which they were a lot lighter than like 2x4s or even 2x2s. And again, like I said, this blind came out here in sections, so having it kind of lightweight was real nice. And the floor is 2x4s. I think the floor joists are like 2x4s with plywood on top. And as you can see, I just screwed in all these sections to all come together. I marked it with magic marker, what section went where, kind of labeled them with numbers and front and back, that sort of thing. And yeah, it worked out really good. This blind has served me really well. You know, and another thing, if you'll notice, I didn't really bother painting up in front here, but behind me, I do have it painted all around. And what that does, it just gives me a dark background. So if a deer is looking toward the blind, any kind of movement doesn't really stand out because I'll have that dark background. Of course, the door would be shut if I was in here hunting. So, you know, that's another thing to keep in mind if you're constructing a permanent deer blind like this, is to have a nice dark background behind you. But anyways, there you have it. It's been a real good deer blind. Shot a few deer out of it over the years. And yeah, and again, like I say, the walk out here is just so menacing. There's no possible way to get to drag anything out here with a four-wheeler or anything like that. So this blind had to come out in sections, and yeah, worked really well. So if you guys ever think like, oh yeah, there's a real good spot I'd like to hunt, but it's such a crummy walk in there, I could never get a nice blind in there at all. Yeah, build something in pieces like this. It takes a few trips, but you can get the whole thing out here. And like I say, it's worked out real great. Yeah, here's the front of the blind. Gives you a little look at it. There you have it, outdoor YouTubers. Little tour of one of the deer blinds we have out here at the camp. But remember this: hunt, fish, laugh, repeat. This is Dave Knetter with Nick Knetter from Knetter's Practical Outdoors. Thanks for watching, and God bless.